Well, I haven't been coming in to do assemblies with you this year, but I have been thinking of you recently because it's the time of year you usually come into Hebron for your Christmas concert. So I thought I'd make you 3 videos to remind you of the Christmas story, or at least bits of it. A long time ago, in 1936, a king came to Dowlais. It was King Edward VIII. It was a damp and chilly day, but lots of people turned out to see him. When he got here, he said, "Something must be done." What did he mean? Well, he saw that many of the men were out of work because the Dowlais steelworks had shut. Because people didn't have work, they didn't have money. Times were hard. It was the end of November. Christmas was on the way. But on that day, people were hopeful. Perhaps this king could do something. At Christmas, we think about the birth of Jesus. He is the king who can make things better. But before Jesus was born, the Christmas story begins with another child. Today, let me tell you about a man called Zechariah and his wife Elizabeth. Zechariah and Elizabeth were both good people, but they didn't have any children, and by now they thought they'd never have any children. They were both quite old. Zechariah was a priest. That means he used to work in the temple. One day, when Zechariah was in the temple, something very unusual happened. An angel appeared. Zechariah was very confused and very afraid. The angel said to him, "Don't be afraid, Zechariah. God has heard your prayers. Your wife, Elizabeth, will have a son, and you must name him John. His birth will make you very happy, and many people will be happy because of your son. He will be a great servant of God. When he grows up, your son is going to have a very important job to do." But Zechariah said to the angel, "How will I know this is going to happen? My wife and I are both very old." Zechariah doubted the message of the angel. The angel said to him, "I am Gabriel, God's servant, and I was sent to tell you this good news. But you have not believed what I've said. So you will not be able to speak a word until all this happens." There were people outside the temple wondering why Zechariah was taking so long inside. But when he did eventually come out, they realized something special had happened. He couldn't speak, and the people knew he must have seen a vision. Zechariah was able to make signals with his hands to tell them what had happened, but he couldn't say a thing. Well, not long after, Elizabeth became pregnant, just as the angel had said. All of their neighbours celebrated with them. People wondered, what are they going to call the baby? People thought, they'll call him Zechariah, after his father. But Elizabeth said, no, his name is John. But the people said, no one in your family has ever been called John. That's not right. And so they looked at Zechariah and asked him, what do you want to call your son? Well, remember, Zechariah couldn't speak. And so they brought him something to write on, and he wrote, his name is John. Everyone was amazed. But they were even more amazed because at that moment, Zechariah was able to speak again. All the people kept talking about the baby. Wasn't it a miracle that Zechariah and Elizabeth had had a baby when they were so old? And it seemed like Zechariah really must have seen an angel because for so long he hadn't been able to speak. The people thought, oh, this is all so strange. What will this child grow up to be? About that time, God taught Zechariah a song. And in the song, Zechariah said, you, my son, he was singing to the baby. You, my son, will go ahead of the Lord to get everything ready for him. What was John, this baby, going to grow up to do? he was going to grow up to get things ready for the Lord Jesus Christ. At that time, Elizabeth had a visit from a relative. Her relative Mary came to stay. They rejoiced together that Elizabeth had had a baby. But Mary had some news of her own. We'll learn about that in the next video. When John grew up, he prepared people for Jesus. He wanted people to see who Jesus was. Have a look at this, but don't try it at home. What was I doing there? I had some candles. Candles are useful in the dark. They can help you see. But they can also help you see invisible ink. I wrote a word on some paper using lemon juice. You couldn't see what I'd written on it until I put it over the candles. And then it revealed what was there. I didn't do a great job because I burnt the paper a bit. And so, as I said, don't try it at home. But that's how John got people ready for Jesus. John grew up to be a teacher, and he taught people about sin. Sin is the wrong things we do. We might not think we do many wrong things. Our wrong things are like invisible ink. And what we need is someone to shine a light on them. And that's what John did. John spoke to people who thought they never did anything wrong, and then they realised that they did do wrong things and they needed to be forgiven. Unless people heard about sin, they wouldn't understand what Jesus had come to do. What did Jesus come to do? What is Christmas all about? Well, we'll learn more about that in the next video.